Despite the fact that steam locomotive power ended during its reign, many steam locomotives were made by British Railways during the period between nationalisation in 1948 and the ending of steam in Britain in 1968. Many were built to pre-nationalisation designs, but just fewer than 1,000 were built to its own designs. This class is one of the 2,537 to be built to the former railway company's designs. She is a 264 tank engine, originally designed for the London, Midland and Scottish Railway. In LMS days, she was designated Class 4P, and the class entered production in 1945. The class continued to be built after nationalisation until 1951, when a total of 277 had been built. This is one of them, 42085, built in 1951 at British Railways Brighton Works. She is one of two remaining members of the class, both of which were built at Brighton after British Railways was formed. Both are based at the Lakeside and Harristhwaite Railway in the Lake District. Several classes of steam locomotives, which originated from the London, Midland and Scottish Railways, were continued by British Railways. This was another of them, the LMS-designed 2P class, or 2MT as British Railways classified them. The 2MT class came about as the LMS had a need to replace many of the various elderly tank engines the railway was operating at the time. Looking at the various designs around, and as the Great Western Railway had success with their own 262 engines, the Chief Mechanical Engineer of the LMS, George Ivett, designed the class, which eventually totalled 130 examples. The class was introduced between 1946 and 1952, but only 10 were built by the LMS before nationalisation in 1948, with the remaining 120 built after, either at Crewe or Derby Works. At the rear is ex-Taff Vale Railway 062, number 85. Four of the M2T class were saved after the ending of steam locomotive operation in the British Isles. And this one, 41241, was preserved as early as 1967 and has been based at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway ever since. The loco is particularly associated with the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, and when initially preserved was painted in a fictitious maroon livery with K and WVR on the sides, though she was later restored to more conventional BR black.
Please mind the gap when I light it on the train. The train at platform 4 goes to 2:30 and first service to Howard and Hospital open. Please mind the gap while boarding and alighting the train.
Arriving into Ingro West Station is a triple heading service led by the ex-Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Class 25, with the LMS Ginty next. And the Taff Vale Railway 85 at the rear, all of which survived into British Railways ownership. The most famous station on the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway is Oakworth, mostly because of the station's inclusion in the 1970 film The Railway Children. We're here to see two of the British Railways locomotives speeding through a station, a sight very rarely seen on the preserved railway circuit. Some time later, and the double-heading speeders are on the return journey to Keighley, this time stopping at Oakworth. At the helm is British Railways 4MT class 8002, connected to the 2MT class 41241 we saw earlier. The two locomotives together have a tractive effort of over £42,000, more than an LNER A4 Pacific such as Mallard. The rake of coaches are the British Railways standard Mark I type, first introduced in 1951. Reputably Britain's smallest full-sized railway station, Damen's opened in 1847. The station has a ticket-cum-station master's office, waiting room, toilet and signal box. Arriving with a service to Keighley is 8002, the railway's 4MT class, designed by R.A. Riddles in the 1950s. .155 of the class were built by British Railways up to 1956. The 15 which were due to be built in 1957 were cancelled because of the rise of the diesels. Indeed, the last 5 of the locos actually built would have been cancelled too, if they hadn't have been too advanced in construction. A change of lines, and the North Yorkshire Moors provides the landscape for one of Britain's most scenic preserved railways, the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. The 18-mile railway is the second longest preserved line in the country, and formed the middle section of the former Whitby, Pickering and Moulton line, which was closed in 1965 as part of the Beeching Cuts. We're standing high in the moors to see another 4MT in action. But this is a 460 loco, meaning that the loco has a 2-axle leading truck, followed by 3 driving axles. The class was introduced in 1951 and were designed for mixed traffic on secondary routes where the Class 5s would be too heavy. They were essentially a tender version of the standard 4.262 tank engine we saw earlier on the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. Here 75029 is at one of the North Yorkshire Moors Railways 2 passing stations, Goathland. And here she is later arriving tender first at the other passing station, Lewisham. British Railways oversaw the transition away from steam traction towards diesel and electric motive power. The call of the phasing out of steam locos was included in the 1955 modernisation plan, and major withdrawal started in 1962, a year after the class of diesel hauling this train to Gromont was introduced. Once at Gromont, the Class 25 diesel is uncoupled and shunted past the train to return to the engine shed. Leaving 75029 to couple up.
Let's just stick it 7 on. As soon as he backs up, I'll go and do a continuity.
The design was undertaken at Brighton by the Chief Mechanical Engineer of British Railways, R.A. Riddles. Passing the 4MT is perhaps the most famous class of locomotive to come from the London and North Eastern Railway, the A4s. With 75029 at the helm, the service is leaving the North Yorkshire Moors railway line north of Gromont Station and joining the National Rail network on the Esk Valley line to Whitby. The whole line was originally planned in 1831 by the railway pioneer George Stephenson as a way of opening up trade routes inland from the important port of Whitby, and was opened in 1836. The stock today is a standard Mark I coach, used on British Rail until the late 1980s, albeit in refurbished forms. Here the stock is predominantly wearing the later maroon livery, apart from the last coach, which is in the earlier blood and spilt cream style. The seating style is 2+2, familiar to passengers today. Whitby is a shadow of its former self. In the 50s, the coastal town had 4 lines running to it, but then came the closures. The first to go was the route along the coast to the north in 1958. Then the Beeching Report in 1963 recommended the closure of the remaining 3 lines. In the end, only 2 were closed, in part due to local pressure. The line which was kept open was the Esk Valley line to Middlesbrough, in preference to the double track line to York via Pickering, the line which is now the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. The North Yorkshire Moors Railway started to operate through journeys to Whitby from Pickering in April 2007, and as of the 2008 timetable, 3 daily services starting with the 9 AM departure from Pickering are available. The services attract passengers both old and young. As Whitby station is now a single line, single platform station, the train has to reverse into the nearby sidings. Later in the day, 75029 arrives with the afternoon service. The shed code of 50H isn't a real code. The highest lettered code during British Railways time was 50G for Whitby. Whitby station isn't just a single line, single platform station. It also doesn't have any passing loops, meaning that to haul the train back to Pickering, the passengers have to disembark first. Then the coaches are pushed into the nearby sidings by the hauling locomotive. Then, in the sidings, the loco uncouples, runs around the coaches and pushes the train back into the platform, ready for the return run. As passengers are not allowed to be on the train when it is in the sidings, everyone has to get off, even if they are going straight back. The flashing light is the standard British method of signalling the end of a train. The coaching stock for this journey is Mark 1s again, but this time some are in blood and cream, others are in the standard British Rail blue and grey, and one example is in the chocolate and cream of the Great Western Railway, which the Western region of British Railways used between 1956 and 1962. On the right is the old Whitby shed, closed in April 1959. .5 miles from Whitby is the next station on the route, Ruswarp. First class stock on the train today are the FK type, first corridor, with separate compartments.
That's all right. Say hello to him.
At Gromont we can have a closer look at the 4MT. The Locos weigh 69 tonnes, and the tender weighs a further 42 tonnes. Their driving wheels are 5 foot 8 inches in diameter, and produces £25,500 of tractive effort. And now she's off to Pickering. Many locos lasted into the era of British Railways, and this is the only surviving example of the former London and North Eastern Railway class K4, named the Great Marquis. Another such surviving class was the S15s, built from 1920 to 1936 for the Southern. The era of steam in the British Isles ended in 1968, some 40 years ago. But even most of the diesel and electric locomotives which have replaced them are now themselves withdrawn. Back to the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, and arriving at Oxenholme Station with the breakdown train is 90733, a locomotive with a very interesting history. Commissioned during the Second World War by the newly formed government department, the Ministry of Supply. 90733 is a 280 formation steam locomotive designed by R.A. Riddles to be cheap to build, run and maintain. These austerity locomotives, as they were called, were able to haul heavy loads with the low-grade coal available during the war.
Alright, John, under.
Alright.
Just like to point out, Doctor, that is not my back that's moving.
Are you doing between class A up?
Plus one, yeah.
I'll go down, I'll stand at far side out the way, John. Right. You're back ready when
Here, 90733 is arriving at Dammons, double heading with GWRs 3802. Passengers wishing to get off at Dammons have to sit in the middle portion of the train due to its short platform. 90733 was built in January 1945 by the Vulcan Foundry and was sent to the Netherlands along with around 180 other examples to provide motive power on that country's war-torn network. In 1953, she was sold to Swedish State Railways, along with another similar locomotive built by the North British Locomotive Company in 1944. She was purchased in 1972 by members of the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway and shipped back to Britain. After running during the 70s, a lengthy overhaul was completed in 2007, and the locomotive is looking like the several members of her type which were repatriated on British Railways after the war. Here she is hauling the return journey back to Keighley, this time on her own. British Railways may be remembered as the killer of steam in the British Isles, but many of their fine locomotives survive to this day as a testament to their era.